Hello, this is going to be the first video for the calculus playlist on this channel, and in this video I'm going to be explaining the difference between the average rate of change versus the average value, an important concept that you need to know in order to succeed in calculus. Without wasting any time, let's get into it. So these are the two types of questions you could see, the first one is finding the average rate of change of t of t over the interval 0 to 3, or finding the average value of t of t over the interval 0 to 3. So let's begin. So let's say we have a function t of t, which is temperature in degrees as a function of time over the interval 0 to 3. And here are 2 points. The temperature at the third minute is 315 degrees Celsius, and at 0 minutes it is 0 degrees Celsius. So let's start with the first question. So find the average rate of change of t of t over the interval 0 to 3. So when you see average rate of change, I want you to think how fast something is changing. So in this case, it would be how fast the temperature is changing over the interval 0 to 3. So if you want to, whenever you hear the word change, you should always immediately think of slope. Change in y over change in x. So let's get our 2 points. T of 0, which is 0, and t of 3, which is 315. And to find the average rate of change, you would do t of 3 minus t of 0, which is your change in y, over your change in x, which is 3 minus 0. And if we were to solve this, we would get 315 minus 0 all over 3, which simplifies to 105. And always remember to include units. So this would be 105 degrees per minute. So this basically means that the average rate of change of t over t over the interval is 105 degrees per minute. This is basically saying that t of t is changing at 105 degrees per minute over the interval 0 to 3. So average rate of change, just think of how fast something is changing over an interval. So in this case, how fast the temperature is changing over the interval 0 to 3. It is changing at 105 degrees per minute. That's all you need to know for average rate of change. And now let's move on to average value. The average value is basically, I want you to think of it as the average function value. Think of it as the average function value. So think of it like the average temperature over the interval 0 to 3. The first one is more focused on how fast the temperature is changing, but average value is focused on the average temperature throughout the day or throughout the interval 0 to 3. To find this, there's a formula, which is 1 over b minus a to b. Then you have the function. So what this formula basically shows is, think of this as your width, 1 over b minus a as your width, and think of this as your area. If you were to take the integral from a to b, you would basically get if you were to take the integral of t of t, you would basically get the antiderivative of t of t, which you could think of the area underneath the curve t of t, and then you would be dividing that by the total width. If you divide the area by the total width, the height, you would get your height, which can be thought of as the average value. So think of this as your area, and think of this as your width, and that would help you get your average height, which in this case is the average value, which is the average temperature over the interval 0 to 3. So let's actually solve that. So it'd be 1 over b, which is 3 minus 0, Then you would have 0 to 3. And then you get T of t. And let me solve this real quick. Let's take the interval. Okay, I'm not gonna show the steps for solving the problem, but I'm gonna get to the answer because I would like to explain the concept of average value in this video. So this eventually ends up being 77.1, which is, and the units of this would be 77.1 degrees Celsius. And notice how here, this is 105 degrees. Let me actually change this. Okay. This is 105 degrees Celsius per minute, and this is just 77.1 degrees Celsius. So the key difference here is that this is how fast the function t is changing over the interval 0 to 3, and this is basically the average value of the temperature over the interval 0 to 3. So these are two common types of questions you could see. Obviously, it's going to be much harder than this on the actual AP exam or whatever AP exam you take, Calc A, Calc AB, Calc BC. But it is important to know the difference between this because this shows up on nearly every AP exam, this concept. So the key takeaway to realize is the average rate of change tells you how fast something is changing. So in this case, how fast the temperature is changing over an interval. An average value tells you what the value of the function is on average. So like what the value of the temperature is on the interval 0 to 3. One final tip I would like to add is on a problem, if you see the words rate of change after the word average, then immediately think of this formula. FB minus FA, or B minus A. And if you see something other than rate of change, such as like temperature, miles, gas, it could be anything, water, any other word besides rate of change, then immediately use this formula. I hope that makes sense, and thank you for watching.